They say history began with writing. But what if the truest stories were never written at all? What if two great civilizations once shaped this world, so vast, so advanced, so alien, that remembering them would shatter everything we've been taught to believe? This is not a myth. It is a buried truth, stitched into our DNA, carved into stone, and scattered across the sea floor. Before Egypt, before Sumer, there was Lemuria, and there was Atlantis. Two timelines, two visions, one Earth and one collapse. You won't find this in textbooks, but you might find it in dreams you thought were imaginary. You won't hear this in school or see it in the archives, because what happened to Lemuria and Atlantis wasn't just forgotten. It was erased. Lemuria, also known as Mu, was a civilization of harmony, emotion, and resonance. Atlantis, a kingdom of mind, mastery, and control. Some say they existed at the same time. Others say one rose as the other fell. But all agree on one thing. Something ended them both. If you've ever felt a strange connection to lost continents, you're not alone. James Churchward's The Lost Continent of Mu, linked in the description, documents what might be the last surviving records of Lemuria's fall. Two worlds, one planet, and a hidden history Earth was never meant to remember. The Lemurians weren't just an ancient people. They were a frequency, described in early esoteric records as tall, soft-featured beings with deep emotional intelligence. The Lemurians lived in harmony with Earth's rhythms. They didn't dominate nature, they listened to it. Said to have originated in what we now call the Pacific Basin, Lemuria, or Mu, stretched across massive island chains and submerged plateaus, Hawaii, Easter Island. The coastlines of Asia, Australia, and the Americas all bear traces of their memory. They lived not through machines, but through resonance. Their communication was telepathic. Their structures were grown through vibration. Some say they had no need for physical tools, just intention, emotion, and harmonic sound. Their technology was organic, living. They worked with crystals, water, plants, and the Earth's own grid lines. Healing wasn't something they did, it was something they were. If Atlantis was about control, Lemuria was about connection. Churchward's Lost Continent of Mu, linked again below, contains references to temples, glyphs, and records left by what he believed were Lemurian survivors. Not as fantasy, but as ancestral truth. They were not gods. They were not primitive. They were a civilization Earth has tried to forget, and some of us have tried to remember. And as we'll see next, their mirror wasn't far away. If Lemuria was the soul of Earth, Atlantis was its mind. Described in ancient texts and psychic visions, Atlantis stood as a beacon of precision, technology, and intellect. It was a civilization built not on harmony, but on mastery. The Atlanteans, according to legend, were seeded by star nations, possibly from the Lyran, Orion, or Pleiadian systems. They didn't commune with the Earth. They studied it, engineered it, bent its energies into grids, crystals, towers, and machines. Where Lemurians worked with emotion, the Atlanteans used calculation. Where Lemurians listened to water, the Atlanteans harvested it as power. Their capital, often described as concentric rings of land and water, was said to be an epicenter of science, sacred geometry, and spiritual experimentation. Atlantean architecture matched star patterns. Atlantean devices amplified thought. But with such power came arrogance. Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages, linked below, is filled with symbols, glyphs, and initiatory codes believed to come directly from the Atlantean priesthood. He didn't treat Atlantis as a story. He treated it as a warning. The Atlanteans were brilliant, but brilliance without balance becomes unstable. And soon, they would come to know that even the most advanced minds cannot outrun the laws of resonance. The tension was building, the mirror was cracking, and the Earth was For a time, Lemuria and Atlantis coexisted, but they were never aligned. Lemuria flowed, Atlantis calculated, one built through intuition, the other through will. Their differences were more than cultural. They were energetic. Some say Lemuria foresaw Atlantis' rise and tried to warn them. Others claim the Atlanteans considered Lemurians obsolete, too emotional, too passive. What we do know is this: there was a divergence, a split in philosophy, in technology, in purpose. Lemuria focused on the inner world, dream work, soul memory, energetic healing. Atlantis turned outward, pushing the limits of form, time, and space. Eventually, that rift became unstable. Earth couldn't hold both frequencies. Some believe this imbalance triggered magnetic pole shifts. Others say it opened dimensional rifts that altered Earth's resonance forever. And Lemuria was the first to fall. Their lands sank slowly beneath the Pacific, not through violence, but retreat, a chosen descent. Some Lemurians chose to stay in physical form. Others dissolved into frequency, waiting for a time when Earth could receive them again. As Lemuria faded, Atlantis surged. With no counterpart to balance it, it grew unchecked, powerful, brilliant, and reckless. The echoes of that decision still ripple through time. And as Atlantis rose above the ocean, it carried not only the brilliance of its design, but the seeds of its own destruction. Both Lemuria and Atlantis may have had help, not from gods, but from beings beyond Earth. Records, channeled material, and sacred texts hint at visitors from Sirius, Orion, the Pleiades, even Andromeda. Some came as teachers, others came to control. In Lemuria, alien collaboration was subtle, organic. Energy healing, crystal resonance, and planetary alignment were passed down through communion, not command. Their technology was alive, fluid, emotional, in harmony with the planet's own rhythm. Atlantis was different. Its technologies mirrored its mindset, sharp, structured, brilliant. Crystalline energy grids powered cities, light chambers enhanced consciousness, machines read thoughts and manipulated space-time fields. The Atlanteans didn't just receive technology, they reverse-engineered it. Some say they integrated extraterrestrial DNA into their priesthood. Others claim they uncovered something ancient, buried tech from before even Lemuria. Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings, linked below again, contains keys to decoding the symbols left behind. Not just drawings, but blueprints, initiation glyphs, star maps, energy diagrams. But even wisdom from the stars cannot protect a people from themselves. Some Atlanteans believed they could ascend by force, by activating artificial gateways, manipulating frequencies too large to contain. And in doing so, they fractured the grid. The Earth's resonance wavered, the balance collapsed, and the very forces that once gave Atlantis its power turned against it. Lemuria faded quietly. Their fall wasn't a cataclysm, it was a retreat, a conscious dissolution. They understood the Earth was shifting frequencies, and they chose not to resist. Some Lemurians moved into the inner Earth, others became light, disembodied but not gone, and their memory drifted beneath the waves of the Pacific. Atlantis, however, did not go quietly. Its collapse came fast, violent, not from war, but from imbalance, from pushing energy beyond its natural resonance. Many believe it was a single event, a failed energy experiment, a misuse of crystal tech, a rip in space-time that couldn't be sealed. Others say it was gradual, social unrest, priesthoods dividing, nature rebelling. Whatever the cause, the result was the same. Floods, earthquakes, sky fire. The temples cracked, the towers fell, the resonance grid broke, and the island continent that once held the most advanced knowledge on Earth was swallowed by the sea. Edgar Cayce's readings on Atlantis, linked in the description, tell of survivors who fled to Egypt, the Andes, and even North America. They brought fragments of the old knowledge with them. Atlantean fingerprints still mark sacred sites worldwide, but they also brought a warning. That unchecked knowledge, without spirit, leads always to collapse. And Earth has not forgotten that lesson. It's etched in stone, buried in myth, and waiting for us to remember. If Atlantis and Lemuria truly existed, why were they erased? Why is there no mention in your textbooks, no serious discussion in modern history? Because their existence challenges everything. These weren't primitive cultures. They were advanced, spiritually, energetically, and technologically beyond what we're taught to believe ancient humans were capable of. If they were real, then history is incomplete. Then humanity is older than we're told. Then consciousness didn't evolve upward from cavemen. It fell downward from light. Survivors tried to preserve what they could, not through textbooks, but through myth, megaliths, and mystery schools. In Egypt, in the Andes, in Tibet, encoded in symbols hidden in plain sight. The Manly P. Hall book we mentioned earlier, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, isn't just esoteric fluff. It's a translation manual, a way to read the messages that survived the flood. Likewise, Edgar Cayce's visions, linked again below, describe a deliberate rewriting of Earth's past, by institutions, by conquerors, by those who inherited power when the lights went out. Because a species that forgets its origin is easy to control. Atlantis and Lemuria weren't just places. They were memory systems. And the erasure wasn't accidental. It was designed to make you forget who you are and what you were once capable of. But even the deepest erasure leaves echoes. Lemuria and Atlantis may be gone, but their frequencies remain. In dreams, in déjà vu, in that strange familiarity you feel when you stand in ancient ruins or stare up at the stars. You don't need proof. You are the proof. Some of you carry fragments of those civilizations in your very cells, lineages that stretch back to Mu, memories from temples that no longer stand, wisdom passed not through books, but through blood. The old technologies may have fallen, but the codes are still here, in sound, in water, in symbols, waiting to be remembered. James Churchward's Lost Continent of Mu, linked again below, wasn't a fantasy novel. It was a search for identity, a record of what still lingers beneath the Pacific. And Cayce's Atlantis readings don't predict a return of land masses. They predict a return of memory, because Atlantis doesn't need to rise again physically. It only needs to rise in awareness. The final key? Integration. Lemuria's heart, Atlantis's mind, not as rivals, but as complements. A new Earth, one that remembers both emotion and intellect, resonance and structure, spirit and science. That is what remains, and what's rising. Let that be the takeaway, not fear, but frequency. Because when you remember who you've been, you awaken what you still are.